we're heading to some cane sites in the land between the lakes that I found this past winter and spring hiking.
And this is 2013.
2013.
And when is Papaipema?
October. Today's October 28th, and it's the end of the Papaipema season, and that's about the latest season for autumn moths. There are a few winter species of moths that come out, but this is toward the end of Papaipema season, and we're looking for 2 cane-feeding Papaipemas that are being described by Eric Quinter. We found them in all 8 of the Jackson Purchase counties, but and other collectors have found new species number 4 in places as far away as Menifee County, but it doesn't seem to be as plentiful as in the Jackson Purchase. And Papaipema New Species number 5 is rarer and hasn't been found anywhere in Kentucky east of the Tennessee River. So if we should get it tonight, it'd be a record eastern catch.
Great.
I'm not too optimistic, but it is a nice warm night, and I've seen some butterflies up here today, a couple, and I still some at home that survived the couple of frosts that we had this week. And we're right down here. That's Forest Road 122. This is Mammoth Furnace Bay, and we're right now at Bethlehem Cemetery, and we're going to drive down. We'll drive down there all the way because you'll see a lot of cane right down there at the bay. And if we see any that looks especially good, we may put this trap there. But if we don't, we'll come back up and put it near where I put mine the other night on a cold night and didn't get much luck. But can't see it now. In the wintertime, when all the rest of the leaves are gone on the deciduous trees, you can see it. And right down here at this, you see it. Place. That's where this sizable tributary creek crosses under this road. It goes out there to the right, about 60 yards. It flows into Mammoth Furnace Creek. And I think we're getting close to it now. Drop off there. Right?
Yeah.
Sharp to the right, and get down in that creek and follow it to the cane. That's the easiest route. Now what we're going to pass on over. In the wintertime, I could see the cane over there.
Oh, okay.
Prior to last week, when it was dark, I never had gone over there to see the cane. So I was searching. That kind of experimentation is exciting, but the chances are not all that great to find something, but it's hard to resist making the best that you can with the limited time that you have. Now there's a little cane back in there, see?
Yeah.
That dark green. Cane is North America's native bamboo. It's a temperate bamboo. Seems to grow well where the soil is sandy, and the soil here in the land between the lakes is not as sandy as some of the places we found in the Jackson Purchase.
Is that cane back there as well?
Some of it is, some of it is not. Sometimes it's a little tricky. The darker part may be.
Okay.
We're going to see some cane. Again, so we're getting toward the upper end of Mammoth Furnace Bay. Now here's cane. See along the road. That's cane right there.
Yep.
It's small.
Yeah.
And
now is this a native species?
Native species, bamboo. Okay. And it's Arundinaria gigantea, and that's the most common one. There are 3 other described species of Arundinaria. Switch cane is Arundinaria tecta on the east coast, and very small switch cane it's called. And in Appalachia they've described another species about 5 years ago, and it's up in the mountains. It's also switch cane, very small, like what you're seeing on the side of the road here, 4 feet tall. And it's Arundinaria appalachiana.
Okay.
And there may be one more, but they're all the dens.
So this is
the end of Forest Road 122, and this is the upper end of Mammoth Furnace Bay. You can't see it from here, but to the left, beyond this point right here, you'll see Lake Barkley.
okay.
And you can find slag right down here where see those rocks out there? They're
Yeah.
slag, and there's some here that we're riding on. Blue and green ones, and that's slag.
All right.
And I haven't found the furnace, but there's some big blocks. It was built of stone. And it's really fascinating to be here. You know, very few people pass by during the week. Just now, you're the only car I saw on Highway 117.
Wow.
And this camper is the only one we've seen here on Mammoth Furnace Bay, and over at Craven's Bay I saw the resident keeper of the site, resident administrator of the site, who's evidently there year-round, living in a trailer. I introduced myself to him, told him what I was doing, that I had a permit from LBL to do this, and there was one other trailer over there. So, you know, it's amazingly underused.
Yeah.
We don't want to whisper that to anybody.
Right.
Any Tea Party hacks. But it's just a wonderful place to roam around, and you do sense the past peoples here, and we continue. You may have noticed that we continue to log the LBL. You know, the Forest Service administers it, and the Forest Service nationwide does a whole lot of. They let a lot of contracts for logging the forest.
Well, Forest Service in general practices conservation as opposed to
preservation.
Right, or pure environmentalism. You know, where they're preserving nature, right?
Right.
They kind of have that philosophy, I think.
My feeling as I look at these forests that they're timbering, they're not mature forests, you know, and I think they ought to give the forests about 50 years longer than they're giving them before they let these guys timber. There's some cane over in there, but I don't see it now. And it's pretty wet here. The ground is pretty wet. There's not as much sand in it as in the Jackson Purchase, and those two factors have a lot to do with finding the rare new species number 5.
Wow. So you mean even though the plant is here, the moths typically like cane that's in sand?
Yes.
Why? Do you think?
Well, I've just observed that, and it seems to hold generally true. And I believe we have not found that moth in a pupa state yet, but I believe that it pupates in the ground, in the rhizomes of the cane, and not up in the stalks the way new species number 4 does. But in its first instar, when it's, you know, a ½ inch or less in length, with tiny, tiny little caterpillars, they seem to go up in the top of cane the way to eat the leaves, the way new species number 4 does. Because Eric Quinter is the only one who's ever gotten caterpillars of them, and that's where they were on his clothing when he came out of a cane break.
Wow.
And so he didn't see exactly where they were in the cane, but you know, on the plant. But he was pretty sure that that's where they were. And
Huh.
let's see, I'm just looking at that cane there, trying to see if it's big enough. Generally should be 1/2 inch diameter or larger. Sometimes we see evidence of number 4. They bore a hole in the stem, they crawl inside the hole, they girdle the inside of the cane, and that makes it slowly die. And they eat the cane on the inside from that girdling up. And it's thought that they're doing that because that weakens the cane's natural defenses, chemical defenses against a predator such as the caterpillar of these Papaipema species moths that are eating the cane.
Wow.
In other words, first thing he does is weaken the cane's chemical defenses by girdling it, causing it to slowly die the rest of the season. And then he's scouring it out on the inside above that girdling, not below it.
Okay.
And below it, the plant doesn't die.
Interesting.
Above it, it does. That's
Wow.
new species number 4. But we don't know where caterpillars of new species number 5 are after their first instar. And we've been in the cane breaks long enough that we should have found it if they're up in the stalks.
Yeah.
And if you
So
see
you
the
actually
color,
believe they're
if you see the
underground?
color of new species number 5, you will see that it's perfectly camouflaged for being in the leaf litter on the floor of a canebrake. It's tan, different shades of tan. These pictures were taken by Richard. These are pictures of other Papaipemas. Let's see right here. This one, for example, is the one that he chews into.
Which one?
This dark one, Sarasota, Papaipema sarasota. The plant it goes after is ironweed.
Okay.
Papaipema appassionata is very interesting. We don't have it here because we don't have pitcher plants. Its caterpillars eat a carnivorous plant.
Wow.
This one was nebrus, Papaipema nebrus. It feeds on ragweed, but when people started planting corn, it decided it liked corn also, so it's a pest. And these
So it's
two,
fairly common.
yes.
No.
This one, Papaipema speciosissima, has been found in Kentucky, the first interior locations of it. Before that, it was in the Great Lakes, the East Coast, and the Gulf Coast. It grows on ferns, royal ferns and cinnamon ferns that grow in seeps. Seeps are like freshwater swamps. They're spring fed. The water's clear, and they look to many people like a swamp. And and here's Papaipema new species number 4. It's burgundy. These are a little bleached out in their color. They're actually, that's darker than that. And this is Papaipema new species number 5. And that's the one that I believe is down on the floor of the canebrake, coming up out of the ground. It would be easier for him to burrow out of the ground if it's sandy soil than if it's tight clay soil.
That makes sense.
And he's colored and the only one I've ever seen flying was last year, and it happens to be the latest one that I've ever gotten. It was the 3rd of November. It was at Blood River in Tennessee, and it was flying along about a foot off of the floor of canebrake that I was in. And it came to my LED flashlight. So we're gonna take a look and see if we can get these guys here. Somewhere along here, but you can see the vehicle too. And there are 3 things that I checked, actually 4. My toolkit here in my shoulder bag. It includes other things for butterfly traps in my killing jar, and I have a battery to run the trap, and we have the trap. This is the two traps I set before earlier this afternoon were made by Leroy Kane, and they're big traps with a 15-watt fluorescent tube. This was made by Lauren Gibson and is just an 8-watt trap, and the battery is smaller. This is more convenient to hike with, especially in woods like this, and it uses less electricity and less ethyl acetate. This is the killing agent we use. It's a solvent, cleaning solvent, and it's used in the manufacture of, it's either varnish or shellac, I forget which one, but it's, and I juggle these recycled Gatorade bottles. They're not affected much by the ethyl acetate, and it's very convenient to just switch like this. And this is an old canteen cover for hikers, and that is my killing agent. And the battery, we use lawnmower batteries for 12-volt lawnmower batteries for the Leroy's traps, and we use smaller 12-volt batteries for alarms. And it so happens that your brother David Black uses a small 12-volt battery to power his duck decoys that flap their wings, and I'm using one of a battery I borrowed from him to power this trap. And the last thing I do, sometimes I take a butterfly net with me if it's earlier in the day. I might see butterflies, but I stop and look at three things: the trap, got it; the battery, got it; and ethyl acetate, got it. And then I have a few tools in here you need, like flashlights and other things.
Can I carry something
and a
for
compass.
you? Oh, and a compass. Yeah. That's a good idea.
That's very good. I was once in Blood River bottoms at night and didn't have my compass, and I got lost and spent about an hour and a half searching around. Made two great big circles. Came in on my own light trap after 45 minutes. Thought first I felt indignant. Some other collector had invaded my territory, and then it dawned on me that I was the invader. And then I improved. It only took 20 minutes for me to circle completely around and come back in on my own trap. It was quite an adventure.
Wow.
I eventually got to a power line and followed it out of the bottoms. And
now, this was at night then?
this was at night.
So what time did you finally get home?
I got home about 1 or 2 in the morning. And it was a road about as busy as this one. If someone had just driven through on the road, I could have gotten my bearings from the sound. And the light, I could have seen the light. I was that close, but it was flat, and it was quite an adventure. So we're going to go in here where hopefully we won't get into that much of an adventure. Now here's this tributary creek. These are pretty deep creeks, and look at the map, they drain a lot of area. That cane is good size. This is
you discovered it at night, you said?
Creek. Yes. Well, I first discovered it back in March, before the leaves had come out on the trees in the woods, and you could see it all the way from the road. You can see our truck right now, 75 yards away. And it turns out it crosses this creek, and that's what I'm looking for right now.
Gotcha.
This is a smaller end of the cane, and that's not such a good place to put traps.
Okay.
It's better to put it in the middle of
a cane break.
Cane break. Yeah.
Okay.
And that didn't get things that are flying both ways. And if you're on the end, you only get things that are coming out there to the dead end.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've discovered is boots help tremendously in exploration. And one way to do it is once you find cane in an area, is walk the creeks because it likes the shoulders of the creeks. And
how about that?
This almost looks as though the creek measures from actually cane, because the cane, I saw it the other day when I collected this plant in the baseline, and it looked like a continuation of that run of cane. That could be enough time to, it was a full night, and there were only 2 moths in the trap of any kind. 2 moths and 2 spiders. Now here's the cane that I saw. I was hoping it was good, but it looks kind of puny. Let's take a look at it. Now see, it looks like there's some more back around there.
Okay.
And this idea of walking in the creek, and I'll tell you what we can do. We can walk through this cane here, and we'll just size it up and see if it's big enough, dense enough. At night it's hard to do that. So, this
yeah.
I'm glad we got here. Well, it still has some daylight. But not to have it for a long time. These are pawpaw trees, by the way, and black swallowtail caterpillars eat these leaves. Now that's a new cane. See with the leaf sheaths on it, the tan?
Yeah.
That came up this year, and it comes up in a month and grows that high, and the diameter, whatever the diameter is going to be and the height, it'll grow that in 1 month.
Gosh.
Papaipema New Species number 4 females lay their eggs in those leaf sheaths.
Oh, really?
First you cane, and that to me is an indication of whether the cane stand is healthy or not, because it's got new shoots coming up.
Okay.
If you don't see any of those, I'm kind of wary of that cane as maybe not being a very dynamically healthy. This is a nice little stand, but you need more than this. We can have enough cane to be. We can have a good prospect here, and that's kind of peeling out. And I'm afraid there's also some question as to whether that's real cane. I may take it back and set it where we did the other night. Oh, now this is a little bit more back in here. And this will go down where we drove before. See, now this is looking a little bit better. I'll tell you what, I think we'll set it right in here. I like to get in the cane and set it kind of in the middle of the cane, so that things flying around in it would pass you, have a chance of passing the tracks and seeing it, and no matter which way they were going. This is a little bit, isn't quite enough, but I think we'd better go ahead and set it while we've got daylight, and we'll see how we do. And may set it up here in another place tomorrow.
All right.
Although we're facing some rain tomorrow night. These, by the way, have a rain drain, and you'll see that. Now this, let's see. There you can see this. This thing's a little small too. These new shoots are the right size. The other cane is just a little bit small. We'll go ahead and set it right here. And, no. I think I'm going to go across there, even though that's, I tried that the other night. I had bad luck with it. It was a cold night. This is going to be warmer. We may be too late for these things anyway. It's a debate as to, I think I'll, down that way. Maybe something over there. See it. We'll leave it here.
Okay.
And now this Lauren is a perfectionist, and he has done a beautiful engineering job on this, so that this thing is convenient. This battery is direct current, and these tubes need alternating current, so they have to have these straps have to have a converter to take the battery direct current and turn it into alternating. It's really a beautiful little job of engineering, and so convenient to hike with. This is the bottle for the ethyl acetate with wick. This is the rain drain. You can look down inside that bucket. See, there's a hole in the bottom of it, and that will let the rain out. And this funnel catches the rain that makes it into the funnel that the bugs come through. See, and the bugs hit this screen and scamper off and get down in here, and notice the veins that Lauren has put in the bottom. They're wooden, and this tends to make the moths. This is his bucket. It's a pie pan or a cake pan that he buys at the hardware store. He makes this insert the partitions. That's where I've repaired it with aluminum tacks for an aluminum pan, so we don't get electrolysis. But the moths, as they die, they get down in these different compartments and don't fly around and scamper around and travel all over each other and tear each other up in there. Even better yet, the beetles do the same thing. Beetles can really tear up moths in these traps, because beetles come to the traps too, and they don't die as quickly as the moths, so they spend some time crawling around, bulldozing through the moths, and they tear them up, and sometimes things are in bad condition. So all of those factors are part of learning how they do. Now this is an idea. This is a ping pong ball that even keeps the air from circulating through here, but would allow the water to go down by floating it up, and it would drain, but not dry out your ethyl acetate too fast. The ethyl acetate is expensive, and the only one problem is that the ping pong ball reacted chemically to the ethyl acetate fumes and shriveled up like a raisin. But it still has enough roundness that I use it. Lauren gave me another funnel that he has carefully sewn this screen onto, but I've continued using that one. I will eventually, and I forgot one of these funnels out in the Streetman's canebrake on Massac Creek in Paducah, in the edge of Paducah. Now this is the ethyl acetate, and it's very volatile, so you can smell it. Too bad we can't record that, but it's a rather pleasant smell. It's probably not good for you. It's a mild poison. Some collectors actually use cyanide in their traps. Mo Nielsen does. He's a very respected, he's now octogenarian collector from Michigan. There's another poison that the segobarths are beginning to use, and it has some promise. It's a baker's ingredient. It's ammonium carbonate, and they've been using it here. If you catch a female and she's still alive, sometimes you want to try to get her to lay eggs, and we've been trying to do that with Papaipema New Species number 5 for 10 years. One collector may have succeeded in that last year, I'm not sure, but we almost succeeded this year. We actually got 2 different live females, one from my live catch trap that is a combination of Leroy's light trap with his bait trap turned upside down under it. No poison in it at all. The things end up in this net cylinder. And you pick out the female and keep her for laying eggs. But the segobarths have a new trap that they've been working on, and they're using ammonium carbonate. And Eric Quinter says if a female survives that, if it doesn't kill her, she will recover and not be permanently injured. Ethyl acetate does injure them, and maybe why we haven't had success with egg laying from females that we've revived from ethyl acetate killing agents. But still, even though we had a beautiful live female that the segobarths caught, she didn't produce any eggs. And I caught a live female also in good condition in a live catch trap, and she stayed alive for about a week. We fed her and did some other things to get her to try to get her to lay eggs, but she didn't. So that's okay. Now put the rain drain funnel in, and now with Lawrence, all of this is right here with this. It greatly simplifies it. With Leroy's, you have to plug those in, the different components. And we also have a photo switch right there, and we'll show with your light how that works in a minute. But that allows us to set it any time of the day, noon, and it won't turn on and start using the battery till dark with these photo switches. And I usually clean off the funnel for my pants leg. And there. Now the way this works is the light is a black light, and the ultraviolet rays in that are unusually attractive to moths, and they will fly in here. Paul Waring of England says it's not that they're so that they like the light, they are dazzled by it, they are disturbed by it, and they're coming in to check it out or find out what it is. But they fly in, they hit these baffle, these vanes, and knock down to the funnel and into the gas chamber. And these springs hold this rig together. And if you're here tomorrow for collecting, these are also easier to collect because you can take a 1 gallon Ziploc bag and you can put that tray, that cake pan in it, and put it back in the trap, and other flies and things can't get in there to feed on your newly killed specimens. And now let's see here about hooking this up. We have a positive and a negative alligator clip, and here goes. Because it's already dark, this light will probably turn on right away. And there it is. And we are ready for the night. Now, the way collectors used to do is to put a sheet up out here before these traps, and then you have to stay here and tend the sheet. there's some advantages in doing that. You know what time of night they fly because you're here when they come in, and you can see them flying and draw conclusions about their behavior from that. But it's nice to go home and go to bed and rest and not stay up all night with the sheep. I like traps much better than sheets. And now let me show you what I'll put a flashlight to this photo switch, and you'll see what happens then. Okay, the sun comes up and hits the photo switch. It'll be like this. Boom. And in afternoon, the sun goes down. Boom. So that before the photo switches, you had to wait till close to the time of dark so that your battery didn't run down by being on so long. The Segabarths have got a new experimental trap that uses a series of LED lights that are that will run on direct current, and they don't need a converter or transformer, and they can set it. They are so efficient that their battery is only half the size of these little batteries, and they can go 2 days on one trap, on one battery. They can run a trap for 2 days, and they can turn it on in the daytime and just leave it on in the daytime, and it'll still, there's enough power in the battery to keep it doing that. And I'll take this with us, and tomorrow when I collect this trap, I'll use this gallon Ziploc bag I'll take out that tray, slide it in here, put it back in, and I can ride with it all day, and the specimens don't dry out, and flies and other predator insects can't get in there to eat them.
Neat.
And
you just leave it out here with
Yeah, just leave it out here with it. If it's going to rain, sometimes I cover this over, but I think I'll. All right. And we'll see. All right. Have any luck tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll come back.
What time do you usually come get it?
The more energetic collectors like Leroy Kane gets out and gets his traps about 6 in the morning, or 7 or 8. I usually don't leave home till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and sometimes it's noon before I get mine. But with this rig the way we have now, with these photo switches, that works all right. And those separations in this kick pan help the moths stay in place, and you're not bouncing them around, and they don't slide all over one another and deteriorate their condition. But this is quite a fun adventure that it provides the discipline that gets you out to the woods, and it really is it's given me a purpose to be out in the woods that has given me a wonderful knowledge of the terrain and the vegetation and the people of Kentucky who allow you to collect on their land. Most are very accommodating and are interested in the science that you're pursuing, and it's been a lot of fun.
All right. Cool. Yeah, so you can see just barely see the trap through there. See if I can zoom in on it. Oh yeah. And so this is good, you said?
Yeah, this is good that the moths that may be in here can see that and may gravitate toward that, may fly to that to check it out.
Yeah.
With Kentucky Lepidopterus, we have some amazing characters. Two of the guys who have developed these light traps are members and Kentuckians. One is Lauren Gibson. Neither one actually invented the light trap, but they have improved it greatly. Lauren didn't choose to commercialize his trap or to market it, and he didn't try to patent it. Neither did Leroy, but he took Lauren's design and basically began to market it and then improve it in various ways. And Leroy does, he designs custom traps for people. For the Coast Guard, he designed a trap that would run for 14 straight days and would recharge its battery with photocells from sunshine in the daytime, and had a carousel that, like a Lazy Susan, that would move one a new container in under the funnel each day, so that they could track 14 different days and come back on this island out in the Atlantic Ocean, about 280 miles, which was not convenient to come every day to collect or to stay on the island that long. But he also has sold traps to universities and to individuals all over the world, and to the U.S. government in testing they've done down in Antarctica. They haven't found any moths down there, but they have found 2 orders of aquatic insects. And these 2 collectors are as opposite in personalities as they could be. Lauren is very much a gentleman and modest and quiet, doesn't boast of his accomplishments. He actually has become so good he's made the transition to being a professional lepidopterist. He's now traveling 3 or 4 times a year down to Peru to do surveys in a certain valley for butterflies there, and his mounting and work is just absolutely beautiful. Leroy, on the other hand, while he does equally beautiful work mounting specimens and has a wonderful extensive collection, is a boisterous, exuberant collector who is a great braggart and boasts that his traps are operating on every continent. It's funny to see the interaction and dynamics within the Society of Kentucky Lepidopterists, where we try to accommodate everybody, where no one is everyone is welcome to join this group who has any interest in Kentucky butterflies and moths. And in fact, we have about 80 members still. We once had 120 or so while Charlie Cavell was resident here in Kentucky. He was our guru who co-founded this group with Richard Henderson. And we're down to about 80. Only a dozen or so of us live in Kentucky. Others are, this has been such a good group, and we're doing enough that they're glad to be a member for $15 a year and get our newsletter. Leroy is also the editor of our newsletter. So we've got a lot of talent and a lot of bubbling enthusiasm and a great variety of characters in the Society of Kentucky Lepidopterists. Richard Henderson, the co-founder, is not so active now. He is one of the few African-American lepidopterists. And he suggested to Charlie Cavell in 1974 that they should invite all the Kentuckians who were known to have an interest in butterflies and moths to come form this group, and from that it grew to be what it is now. There's also a national group, the Lepidopterist Society, and it's a very outgoing group where the experts mentor the amateurs, and there's a good collegial relationship between the amateurs and the pros. They support one another. Amateurs supply specimens to the pros, and the pros help the amateurs identify what they have, and it's a very worthwhile, stimulating group, and keeps minds working, figuring out answers to questions that are both old and new, centering around these particular scaled wing insects. Sometimes you can get a caterpillar that way, or a pupa that way, by pushing through. I call it the Eric Quinter method. When he goes through cane, he pushes his way through, and as you push it back about 45 degrees, you know, and bend it, if it has one of those Papaipema New Species number 4 caterpillars in it, it may break right there. And then you take a look at it and collect what you find.
Yeah. So are you, now number 4 is the one that...
That's the burgundy one.
Number
5 is the rarer one.
But number 5, does it actually burrow through it as well? Or you're
yes,
saying...
all Papaipemas have caterpillars who bore into the stems of plants and either stay in the stem to eat the inside of it, or burrow down into the roots and eat the inside of the roots.
Okay.
In this
so
case,
they all enter,
I'm saying
they all enter the plant from
yes,
the stem.
That's right.
And then
that's
burrow,
right.
and either stay in there or go. You think, but that's the theory, that they go down into the ground.
No, it's known for a number of species that they go down into the roots.
But
I'm speculating about new species number 5. I think that it's down in the roots, and actually probably in the rhizomes, because they're big as your thumb in diameter. The roots can be very small, too small for that caterpillar. And see, the Papaipema New Species number 5 is, Quinter considers it the largest of all species of Papaipema in size. And we got some large ones this year down at Ballard Wildlife Management Area at Gerald Burnett's site, where he first found them. And oh boy, they were really big.
Wow.
That was real.
So I'm surprised that no one has, has someone tried to pull the roots up and discover them inside the roots? Is there any evidence? I mean, do you see outward evidence of that the moth is in there? I mean, you said they burrow through the stem first.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever tried to investigate that?
No, they might be in the ground and burrow down, dig in till they find the root or a rhizome, and burrow down, burrow into it. Now, let me not, look at here. See, that would be good if I had my net. That's too small for what we're looking for, but that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Now, I want to be sure we don't get lost here.
Okay.
Let's stay close to this creek.
Yeah. Are we getting away from the creek?
Yeah, we're getting away. That's,
now, one thing we could use that as GPS on my phone, if you need to.
Look, there's our trap.
Oh, that's good. That's pretty good line of sight. You can see it from a distance. Okay. Yeah, there's the.
Yeah, here's the guy. Okay, now that's the cane over there, I think.
Okay.
So we're still on
So if we just stay this way toward that log.
Frontage Creek and this other tributary. Yeah, I remember now going up on this tree trunk.
Yeah. Was this the trunk we walked on earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I see the bark that fell off it.
I recognize. The tributary is up there. And I think we're even kind of up there. You know, reflected on the top floor.
Okay.
It should be up to the right back here. I think it's where the tributary runs into.
Okay.
The mouth of the tributary right here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And
Okay.
still safe. Easy to take to it. This is the mouth of it.
Okay.
This is, see, here's the
Yeah, there's
tributary.
the tributary.
And there it is coming in.
Yeah.